My national security team and I have been closely monitoring the situation on the ground in Afghanistan and moving quickly to execute the plans we had put in place to respond to every constituency, including and contingency, including the rapid collapse we're seeing now.
You see, it was all part of the plan. This is what they had plotted. For the last 20 years, the Pentagon has been plotting exactly this. Diabolical. I guess we're going to have to increase their budget now. I'm probably going to need more money so this doesn't happen again. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Well, happy Tuesday and welcome. At least you're probably not in Kabul trying to get out. I saw Kabul Kirby with his friends on CNN this morning, explaining all the great things they're doing. Hey, they got as many as 7, maybe even 800 people out yesterday. Of course, 650 of them were on one airplane, a C-17 Globemaster III. It's the third in the Globemaster series over the years, don't you know, decades since the first one. And that terrible Trump administration, they were going to do the same thing. This was their plan, too, except it wasn't their plan. K.T. McFarland, who is President Trump's national security advisor, and a lovely and a fine woman, was on with my friend Larry O'Connor this morning on WMAL, the mothership in Washington, D.C., and she explained that under the Trump plan, you see, there was some different stuff. They weren't going to wait for the fighting season. This is called the fighting season because they're troglodytes from medieval hell. And when the spring thaw comes, they slither out of the cracks in the earth where they have dwelt, hence troglodytes. And they come out to fight and to kill people with AK-47s and buckets of gasoline and things like that, especially women. They're particularly, they have some issues with women. I'm thinking it might be there's a giant national cultural mother issue that they've got to deal with, but they're not dealing with it. And gosh, it's not a good place to be a woman. But the Democrats, keep in mind, America is the most terrible place for everybody. Because race, class, gender, all the various genders, a lot of gender issues here. Over there are only 2 genders, as it turns out. And it's who was it? Was it Stephen Colbert? Is that who it was last night? Comparing the troglodytes of the Taliban to Republicans, who are, of course, represented by January 6th and nothing other than January 6th. But interestingly, with the hundreds of riots, the dozens murdered, the thousands of injured police, the billions in property damage, all the arson, tearing down the statues, and that's the Taliban famous for blowing up and tearing down statues, historical, iconic statues and sculptures. The Democrats took over that role here in the United States, but somehow they never make it into Stephen Colbert's monologue, because it's just another extension of the Democratic Party's propaganda apparatus, the Stephen Colbert Show, along with Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and Bill Maher and the circus and My Cartoon President and HBO and Showtime and, never mind all the details. And, of course, the Sunday morning talk show with Chunk Todd, the former Democrat campaign staffer, and George Stephanopoulos, the former Democrat White House official, and the list goes on and on and on. Oh, yeah, Stephanopoulos is doing an interview with Biden tomorrow. He's very excited to announce that it's a one-on-one with, it's going to be a tough one. You can tell, he's really stepping into the ring this time, the squared circle. He's stepping in with George Stephanopoulos, who is, of course, a Clinton administration official, a lifelong Democrat Party apparatchik, and ABC News anchorman. What is it, $14 million a year or $17 million a year? It's hard to keep track of all their salaries. Yeah, but John Kirby, Kabul Kirby, he was on with CNN this morning, and they had their woman Callista Ward. We played some audio of Callista Ward yesterday, and this has become controversial because Callista Ward said that the Taliban, she described them as nice. Was that the word, Michael? Nice? They seem friendly. Thank you. They seem friendly. They're friendly. You know, the decapitators, they set women on fire with buckets of gasoline because their hair is showing. But on CNN, you know, they're kind of friendly.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time.
Yeah, they seem kind of friendly. Not even kind of. They seem friendly at the same time, which is, of course, reminiscent of, and the news media hates it when you point out things that are real and true and obvious and that everybody should notice and that the news media should talk about. But it's, of course, reminiscent of the Ali Velchis of the world during the left-wing riots from coast to coast, burning and sacking and looting our cities. And the news media telling us over and over again, hundreds, if not thousands of times, that these riots and the sacking and the burning and the looting and the thousands of police officers injured and the dozens of people murdered, mostly peaceful, of course.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not generally speaking unruly, but fires have been started.
Some fires have been set, but really it's mostly peaceful because mostly peaceful is the... we have coffee mugs and T-shirts that say mostly peaceful because the news media and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, use the term mostly peaceful so many times. How many times? Thousands of times during the hundreds of riots where there were billions in damage and thousands injured and dozens murdered. The news media told us mostly peaceful. And now Clarissa Ward, award-winning journalist, and she's going to win more awards for this, I can assure you. And honestly, to give her credit where credit is due, she's a woman. She's an American woman, a gringo woman, a Euro-Anglo-Caucasian American woman. Out there, she donned some of the attire, not a full burqa, but hijab, and, you know, the head covering and so on, but not the face covering. She's not a complete pile of laundry. But she's out there in the middle of Taliban territory because Joe Biden abandoned the city of Kabul and so on. And she's out there in the middle of this stuff, and she could get, find herself in a bad situation in a heartbeat. It could happen, no doubt about it. But she's out there, and she's brave or crazy, one or the other. Because that's usually the thing when you're a news reporter, you like going into zones like this. There are two possibilities. You're quite brave or you're crazy. I've known a lot of these people, and it's about a 50-50 split. And sometimes you start out brave and you do it for 10 years or 15 years, and you end up crazy. Because, you get PTSD, and it's you're out in the middle of all this crazy stuff for all this time. And yesterday we were talking about the people packing onto the C-17 U.S. Air Force transport plane, right? And they say they packed about 650 people on the airplane. And people were not vetted, as I understand it. They weren't patted down to see if they had suicide vests on, blow up the airplane. To see if they had weapons, and they were going to open fire once they got aboard the airplane. It turned out okay. They flew to Qatar. 2 or 3 people fell to their deaths from the airplane. And as I understand it, I have a few people that I know who come from various walks of life. And I was informed yesterday that when the C-17 arrived at the air base in Qatar, which some people like to call Qatar, something like that. I call it Qatar because that's what it's always been called. And I don't call it Kyiv in Ukraine. It's not Kyiv, it's Kiev. And it's not Qatar. It's because I'm not converting to Islam. It's just Qatar, okay? And the plane landed, and when they opened the landing gear and stuff, apparently what they found a couple of human hands and human feet. Now, it's not clear whether somebody, maybe a man, made his way onto the landing gear, retracted in there, was crushed and dismembered, and then when the landing gear opened, the main part of the body fell out over the water or something. Not clear. It might be one of the people that fell from the airplane as it was taking off from Kabul, but pieces were pinched in there. It's a terrible story. I apologize. But that's what's going on over there. And there were, how many people killed yesterday? 7 people killed, I think. Now, at the air base, the airport, it's, Hamid Karzai International Airport, HKIA. I don't think you want an airport with KIA in the abbreviation, do you? That's killed in action in military parlance. And Hamid Karzai International Airport, HKIA, I think you should find another designation for that. That's not a good designation. That's me. I'm kind of old school when it comes to that stuff. And so they got 650 people approximately out on that one airplane. When former Admiral Kabul Kirby was being asked a few questions on CNN this morning by his pals, he said that we have so far gotten a total of 700 to 800 people out. So as we understand it, that's one C-17, a single C-17 airplane got out yesterday from the Hamid Karzai International Airport. And then reportedly a single U.S. Marine Corps C-130 aircraft went in and got out. A much, much smaller aircraft compared to a C-17. Still get a bunch of people on there, but not a whole bunch. And then one German plane, because the Germans are still in there. You know, the British ambassador is still there, but we have no ambassador there. Did you know that? We folded up our flag. Fox News has a picture of apparently a soldier boarding apparently the C-17 airplane. Apparently holding the American flag from the U.S. Embassy, but getting any straight dope from these people is a little difficult. Maybe we should call Hunter. He's got a lot of straight dope, doesn't he? He's the straight dope guy. Call Hunter Biden. He's the greatest artist in the world. He's Picasso. And what has he got? Has he gotten any $500,000 sales yet? Is the media keeping a close eye on that? No, they're not, are they? They're covering it up. And the Germans got in there with an airplane, and they got 7 people out. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good jihadis go to heaven. And so we're told 700 to 800 people yesterday. At that rate, we're looking at maybe 22,000 that we're talking about. 18,000 Afghan or Afghanis that worked for the United States, as the Taliban is reportedly going door to door, knocking on doors, making a list and checking it twice, because they're not really Santa Claus. They're like an evil, malevolent Santa Claus. And for Christmas, you get decapitated because, they don't like that old Christmas thing. And so they're making lists, and people are desperately trying to get out of there. This will naturally lead to a refugee crisis, a refugee flow, and a refugee crisis. And it's all because Joe Biden and our Pentagon, although they're also there, the reporting is hard to get your hands around because there's so much BS out there. But there are reports that the military and the intelligence community in the United States said, oh no, whatever you do, don't do it this way. Don't wait for the fighting season when the troglodytes come slithering out of the cracks in the earth where they reside during the winter months like bears with AK-47s. And you should do it sooner. And KT McFarland said that under their plan, a little allegorism, under my plan, and under the Trump plan, the idea was that they would get and there are tens of thousands of Afghanis to get them out of the country before the spring was done, before the fighting season, before the troglodytes came slithering out of the cracks in the earth. And also the plan was to do it before Bagram Air Base was overrun by the troglodytes, which it was weeks ago, and it was looted and sacked and plundered. It's almost like, Antifa and Black Lives Matter was coming through, but it was the Taliban and their allies. But of course, keep in mind that it's Republicans who are the Taliban in the United States. We're the ones tearing down the statues and burning the businesses and shooting the retired police officers and injuring thousands of police. And wait a minute, maybe that's not the case. Maybe I've got that wrong. But that's what the propaganda network of the Democratic Party continues to put out, including Stephen Colbert last night. Yeah, but the plan under the Trump plan was to get all of the Afghans that we were going to evacuate, to get them out in the winter and the spring. But Joe Biden threw that plan out because it was Trump's plan. So waited until the summer months, well into it's if I'm not mistaken, it's August now here. Not sure what month it is in Afghanistan. They got a sliding scale of time over there. And it might be August, but it's the year 811 or something. And they're 8.5 hours ahead of us because, just to be contrary. It's an amazing place. But the plan was, KT McFarland, National Security Advisor, President Trump, to get all the people you needed to evacuate out in the spring season, the winter and spring season. And that didn't happen. So now the wheels are coming off all over the place. Many in the news media are defending and protecting the Biden administration, and some, to their credit, are not. Now, this will be short-lived. That's what they used to say, short-lived. Now we say short-lived. But it won't last for long, this criticism.